Hello everyone, Nigel Saunders here of KW Bonsai. Today we've got a little nicer day than the last video, which was pouring rain the entire day. So today I should be able to hear myself think a little more. That was kind of hard videotaping during that rainstorm. So today we're going to repot my Austrian pine. It's been in this pot for 3 years, and it's probably time to repot it. It's the soil still drains well, so I don't think it's root bound or anything. But I do want to get fresh soil in there. This soil is probably starting to get compacted and needs some fresh soil so the roots can air. The roots can grow through all the air spaces and that more easily. So I think for the health of the tree, we're going to repot it. And I'm thinking about the front of this tree. I may change it. I do like the back of the tree as the front also. The trunk flows a little better. The first two branches are going towards the back of the tree, which kind of puts more emphasis on the upper part of the tree and the longer trunk line. So I don't know. I'm going to think about it. Always got to think about things. I'm going to think about it, and yeah, we'll decide how we're going to repot it, which will be the front and the back. If I put this tree in the middle of the pot, it doesn't really make too much difference, you know, front or back. Yeah, so we'll see. I did sharpen my pruners from the last video. I was trying to cut roots with it, and they were pretty dull. So I spent an hour and flattened all the blades and sharpened all the bevels, and it's really sharp now. It'll cut through paper or anything. It's really nice. It's probably sharper than when they were new. I will be making a video on sharpening my bonsai tools, if you call this a bonsai tool. Sharpening bypass pruners in the future. So that will be coming up one of these days. So let's get started on our Austrian pine. So here we go. I think the first thing we're going to do is probably take some of this moss off. I'm going to keep it. We can place it back on the surface of either this tree or another one, because it's not too bad a moss. Just take it off like that. Now, a question I'm often asked is, when is the best time to repot, you know, different trees? Especially pines and coniferous trees. And the answer is, I don't know. The more you read into it, you know, you try and find out answers wherever you can, and it's like soil or fertilizing. Everyone has a different opinion on it. Some people repot their pines in the middle of summer. Some people repot their pines before any activity starts on the tree, like early spring, or, you know, late winter. I've always repotted my pines in spring, like about now. So, you know, as soon as the ground thaws, we start getting temperatures above freezing. That's time to start repotting for me. And I'll repot, you know, quite late in the year. I'll keep repotting until probably late May, if I have trees that need it. Okay, so we got most of the moss off now. Let's get the tree out of the pot. And I'm going to put the tree back in the same pot. It's a mica training pot. And it's a nice size for the tree. I don't think we need to change the pot size or anything. Okay, let's see if the tree comes out. Oof, oof. She's heavy. There we go. No problem. Take our pot away. Put it somewhere over here. And let's have a look at the roots. I can see some roots down here. My drainage screens. Take those away. Now it looks like there's lots of roots. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to comb out the soil. Just like we do on our deciduous trees and our tropical trees. The soil's pretty wet because it rained for like 24 hours really heavily. So everything's wet around here. So yeah, looking at this soil, it's not real loose and crumbly. I mean, it's not the worst in the world, but definitely could be better. So it's a good thing we're repotting it. It needs it. I think if it was left any later, I think the health of the tree would start to suffer. Which you don't want to do. You want to keep your trees as healthy as possible. So I'm just continuing to comb out my roots. There's also, there's always a discussion on bonsai trees about bare rooting a tree. And I think most of it's a myth. I've never had any harm bare rooting a tree, and I think it's good for it. You definitely want to get rid of your old soil, and you're not going to be able to sort out the roots, especially roots inside close to your trunk, if you don't bare root the tree. You won't even see them if you just, trim around the perimeter of the root ball. You can see on these roots that the tips of them aren't active yet. There's no white new growth on the tips. So, to me, that's a good time to repot, is while the tree's dormant. So I'm just carefully going around the tree, starting from the top and combing out the surface roots and getting as much of the old soil out as possible. And pine trees' roots are pretty tough. On some deciduous trees and tropical trees, when you're combing like this, you get a lot of tearing of roots, but pine trees, the roots are tough and wiry. They don't really tear too easily, so you still want to be careful, but you're not going to be ripping through a lot of roots when you're combing a coniferous tree like this. I've combed out the top of the root ball pretty well as much as I can. So now it's time to turn the tree over and start on the bottom. So we're gonna flip the tree over. And again, I'm gonna start from the middle and comb outwards. When you're working on the roots, oh, there's a train going by. It's funny when I'm making videos, a train goes by like that and I don't even hear it. And then when I'm watching the video later on, I think, there was a train going by while I was talking. So, this time I heard it for some strange reason. I'll let it go by and then we'll talk a bit about, there's another screen. We'll talk about roots. I guess it's quite enough. How much work do you do on the roots? Well, I try and do as much as I can, as often as I can, without killing the tree. Like I said, if you just, if you just trim the perimeter of your root base, you're not going to get nice surface roots, and you're not going to sort your roots out. You'll just be trimming the outside roots, which you don't even see anyway. So, yeah, that's why I, bare root all my trees, wash the roots, and work on them. Because if you don't work on roots, they're never going to get better. On the drainage screen. So I'm happy with the roots here. The roots are pretty even throughout the pot. They're growing on the bottom, the top, everywhere. So it shows, both the soil was good and my watering schedule for the tree was good. Because there's no point having the perfect soil with your bonsai tree if you don't water it accordingly. The two go hand in hand. We're getting a lot of these tangles out. Yeah, so for me, this is when I like to repot, is when the roots are still inactive. If I see the tips of the roots starting to grow, then you're kind of miss the dormant period. I've got the tree to the point where I think I can wash the roots. You can see the underside, we're down. There's our flat root ball. Smells nice. So I've got most of the old soil out, so I'm going to wash the roots. I'm just going to swish it around in like a tub of water. And we'll come back when it's all clean. I've washed the roots. And now it's time to give them their combing. So we're going to comb and untangle them all and get them spread in our radial pattern. Some of the roots have grown quite long, hit the edge of the pot and gone around a few times. Wow, really tangled here. Come back to that section. Gives you a good view of what your roots look like though. Allows you to see what needs correcting. Repotting can be a messy job, so it's best you have your old clothes on. And there's a good tangle in there. I don't know what's going on there. Roots are... There we go. Okay, I think we're getting there. We're getting close anyway. to having our roots nice and combed out. So it gives us a good view of what needs trimming. Very tangled. So some of these roots are quite long. They definitely need cutting back. So let's start with a peripheral trim to get the roots back under control as far as size anyway. So here we go. I just sharpened these. They're cutting pretty good, but still roots get caught in them. That's just the angle you're doing it at. Get rid of that long one there. Make sure our tree doesn't tip over. So I'm just going around the outside, trimming the roots, make them more compact. Now let's see how we're doing. Okay, and I'll give it another comb. Roots trimmed a little more. And then we're going to start doing some corrective pruning. So here's a root that's crossing, so we want to trim that off to a set of roots that are facing a nice radial direction. Maybe even get rid of that entirely. There's some roots down here that they're kind of thick roots that were curled around the bottom of the tree, and they were like that when I got the tree from the nursery many years ago. So they're too thick, you can't do anything about them. They could be pruned off, but you don't need to. They're not doing any harm down below here. If we look in the bottom of the tree, we've got some roots growing from the middle. We want to get rid of those. So only our radial roots are, working to thicken the tree up. I want to get rid of any roots growing straight down. There we go. I'm going to get rid of any roots that are getting tangled. So there's one that's growing in towards the center of the tree. I definitely want to get rid of that one. So we're going to take it back to right here. That's gone. Another one in here we want to get rid of. It's not doing anything. And this one too. And this one. Hope you can see that. So there's the center of our root ball. And we've got all our radial roots on top. I'm just giving it a once over, checking for roots that aren't growing in the right direction. So running our rake through everything. Some more long ones here. And the rest of the roots look pretty good. So the only other thing we'll have to trim on the roots is if it doesn't fit in the pot comfortably. We want to leave some room from the edge of the roots to the edge of the pot so they've got some room to grow. So we'll test fit it in the pot. I'll get the pot ready. I'll have to clean the pot and get my drainage screens in and some soil in the bottom, and then we'll test fit the tree. Okay, so I've got the pot all cleaned up, drainage screens in it, I got my soil mounded up. I think I'm going to keep the original front of the tree as the front. I like the root structure on it. The root structure out the back is kind of meager, not as good. So I think we're going to keep this as the front. So I'm test fitting the tree in the pot now. So it's close, but there are a lot of roots overhanging that we're going to trim back. That should fit in there pretty well now. So the next thing we want to determine where to put the tree in the pot, its planting height and all that kind of good stuff. So let's come back and have a look at the tree. So I don't like that composition. The tree is too central in the pot. It starts from the left-hand side and places kind of the middle of the tree in the center of the pot, which is kind of boring. It's a balanced composition, but it's not very exciting. So let's try moving the tree. That one root's in the way. Is that going to stay? I hope that stays. Let's have a look at it with shifted to the right-hand side. Well, the tree's not on the right angle, but maybe a better composition. Let's see what we'd have to prune away to get that tree offset. There's some thick roots down here, but there's lots of fine feeder roots. I'm going to trim it away. There we go. So I pruned off the end of a thick root, but it has fine feeder roots, so allows us to get the tree over further. We're going to see how that looks. Not bad. Maybe it's too far to the right. We'll try moving it back a bit. We want the top of the tree vertical. So I think I've got to place a little more soil on the one side. Substrate. See how that looks. That's not bad. I think that's probably its best position. Maybe tilt it to the right hand side a little bit more. It looks like it's not quite vertical. And I think we're gonna expose the roots a little more. I've played around a lot with, you know, too much roots showing, too little. And I think it's got an interesting root base on this tree, and I think it'll look good to show them off a bit. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, it's not bad. I think the tree's vertical. It's just unbalanced in the pot enough that the root mass is almost on center, but the tree's offset a bit. It's got that long left-hand branch which counteracts the offset. I think the planting height's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's going to be it. So here's a close-up of the tree in the pot. Got lots of room for roots. We're a little bunched up over on this side. We could maybe do a little trimming there. I'll come around the back and do that. Just trim back some of these fine roots. Give them a little space to grow in the pot. Same with some of these back ones. That's not too bad. Okay, let's start putting soil in the pot. I'm just looking at the front to back tilt. I think we'll tilt it towards the viewer just a little bit. Sort of like there. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, let's start filling in the bonsai soil around the roots. And we're just making sure. That looks good. Just double checking that all the roots are in a good position. They look pretty good. The soil I use for coniferous trees is exactly the same as the soil I use for deciduous trees. The only difference is I put some pine bark in it. You can see the chunks of it here. Not a whole lot, but some. And I don't know. I don't know if it helps the tree or not, but I do it. Okay. There's my... So I'm going to start working the soil into the roots now. Just gently. You can see the tree's a little wiggly still. That's because we have air pockets in the roots. We have to get our soil down all around the tree roots. Well, the tree's getting quite firm in there. So we add a little more soil. Again, we want our soil just below the lip of the pot. So not too much more here to go. All our fine feeder roots are safely beneath the soil level, so they won't dry out. Now I'm going to step back and see how it's all looking before we get too carried away here. There's an overall look at our planting, and I think it looks pretty good. I think it's the best it could be. Our root spread looks good at the base. We'll have to do some more wiring to this tree in future, but that's another video. Yeah, I think it's looking good. I'll work that soil in a little more and give it a good watering. So here we go. And we'll water it nice and thoroughly, making sure the water's running out the drainage holes nice and clear. That's all for today on our Austrian pine. We've got it transplanted. I like it. I like our nice flare at the root base. It's looking really good, I think. We'll be dressing the surface up with moss and sand in another video. But that's going to be all for today. I'm going to leave the tree in the greenhouse, which is unheated, until it recovers and starts growing, and then we'll move it out to the benches for the summer. So Nigel Saunders of KW Bonsai, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.